What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Lockdown Universe, home of the bizarre, peculiar, and unheard of stories of UFO legend and paranormal lore. Welcome back, welcome back. Happy to be back. Hopefully, you guys are doing awesome, taking care of yourselves. So, today we're going to talk about superpowers and DNA manipulation and what you would want as your superpower. Keeping in mind that you might not always want what you wish for. You might want to give it back. And there are some people in this show called heroes that wanted to give their powers back. So if you haven't heard of Heroes, it was a show that was released in 2006 on NBC. I was there at that time. Yes, I was on the planet, and I watched it with my rabbit ears back then because we didn't have digital TV yet. At least I didn't. I was out in the country, and my rabbit ears could tune in NBC, and I could watch Heroes with a little bit of fuzziness. And it's a great show about people who get their powers during an eclipse. Since we just had our eclipse, you have to wonder, do people get their powers during an eclipse? Well, I sat out while we had an eclipse, and I was in a 95% zone of the eclipse where it was most 95% blocked out. And I sat out there, and it was weird, but it wasn't fully black out. It was like dim, like somebody was covering the sun, literally, with like a cup or something. Almost felt like we were in an alien ant farm. I didn't get superpowers, but you know what I did notice was that there was like a different light spectrum going on outside, and it allowed me to look at. I was looking at my arm. I noticed my arm, and I looked at my arm, and it gave me almost like a superpower to look at. It's weird, but I had like a freckle on my arm, freckle, mole, whatever you want to call it, and it's been getting dark. And I looked at it, and as I looked at it, I noticed there was like this little red, purplish ring on the outside of it that I've never seen before on the left side of it. And I said, "Well, that's weird." And then as the eclipse went away, I wasn't able to see it as much, and so I really took a deep dive and tried to like flash the light on it, and I could start seeing it. I said, "Wow, that is interesting because this might actually be, potentially cancerous or something like that, or something that I just may be precancerous. I just need to get it taken care of." So the eclipse can bring about maybe some special powers in the light spectrum. But anyway, I don't know if you'd necessarily want that superpower. It's nice and all, but there's probably better ones out there. So Heroes follows the lives of ordinary people according to where they're at on Amazon right now. It follows a genetics professor who manipulates DNA, like we've been talking about in the previous podcast. The government wants to do it. They're already doing it, manipulating people and dogs and animals into humans, just doing all kinds of crazy stuff. It follows a hospice nurse, a single mother, a street cop who always has wanted to be able to read people's minds and see if they're criminals, a small town cheerleader, and a tormented artist, as well as a computer geek, coming to grips with newly found remarkable powers. Now, what's really interesting here is there's so many parallels with real life since we just had an eclipse here in North America. Is that the reason they get these powers is because of the eclipse and because of what they are thinking of, what they're wanting at the time. So what they're wanting at the time of the eclipse is what they kind of become. So like I said, the street cop, he becomes a telepath. He can read people's minds. The small town cheerleader becomes invincible. She can like chop off her arm and like regrow it and stuff, just like we were talking about with DNA manipulation in the other podcast. The genetics professor, he has some interesting like superhero powers, and then the hospice nurse is Peter Petrelli, right here, Mr. Baby Rocky. If you remember, was it Rocky 6 or something like that? I can't remember. But it was great, and he was Rocky's kid. Great. Oh gosh, what's his name in real life? I don't want to screw it up. Where's the cast? The details. So his real name in real life is Milo Ventimiglia. So he's great. He's been in a ton of things since Heroes, because Heroes ended in like 2010. But what I love about this show is the evil guy, Siler over here, Zachary Quinto, played like Spock in the Star Trek new trilogy. And it's been in all kinds of shows since then. He has the capability to steal people's powers for himself, but in order to get them, he has to kill them. He has to slice open their brain or their head to see their brain, to see how it works. Originally, how he gets his powers is by looking at watches and seeing how they work together, and his brain understands it, and then therefore he can understand everybody else's brain and uses those powers basically for evil the entire show. There's some ups and downs, but he's basically that guy. But so Peter is the nurse. He basically becomes like, well, not necessarily Superman. He can fly, and his brother Nathan can also fly. Like all good brothers, sometimes they butt heads. And the show really follows like this really interesting flow of a storyline between good versus evil, and why some people have some powers and some people don't. It's really fascinating. I think you would like it. Now, here's my question. Okay, sorry for yawning. It's the end of the day for me. I've been talking all day. What power would you want? Okay, so let's take, for example, flying. Flying sounds great. Flying is great. But what if you run into a gaggle of geese and you get shredded to pieces? That would suck. So you kind of need flying with invincibility just so you don't get shredded. I mean, as a human finally coming into the flight, if you've been flying since you were 1 year old, you're going to know how to avoid those kinds of problems. But if you're like 30 and then all of a sudden you can fly, chances are you're probably going to kill yourself by accident. You got to run into the ground, slam into the ground or something like that upon landing. So you kind of almost need two superpowers, wouldn't you? And this is interesting because in the future, in the near future, with CRISPR DNA modification, we're going to have superpowers. It's just going to be for the ultra rich. So it's going to be interesting to see. And one of the episodes actually talks about a future where only the super rich or the super desperate can obtain these superpowers, and then therefore become super rich or even more rich. And I find that idea fascinating. So they try to like stop that potential future from happening. Whether or not they're successful is you'll have to see. But I think that potential future is probably closer than any of the other possible potential futures that we talked about in the previous podcast with Neil deGrasse Tyson, with like the cure for cancer and like every medication built specifically for your genome and all that stuff like that. I think that advancing what we already are, building muscle, having people that can have super muscle right off the bat, that should be an easy fix. We already know that there's a protein enzyme that can increase muscle mass like by like 50% or like 100% or 200%. And I'm not even talking about steroids. I'm talking about like an amino chain acid that they know about. So we already have some of this technology. Would you want the cheerleader's capability where she is invincible? She can't be killed. You can chop her, you can cut her, you can shoot her, you can do anything. She can't be killed. She can't be hurt. She can break bones, but they're going to go right back together. That would be interesting, but can she die? That's an interesting question, right? Can she be killed and come back to life? Would you want that superpower? As long as you look the same, right? Nobody wants to come back like a zombie, because zombies are ugly and they eat brains. So nobody wants to come back looking like, something off The Walking Dead. You want to look like you're coming off something from, I don't know, Sex and the City or something like that. Something pretty. What about Hiro Nakamura? Now, he's the computer nerd right here. He is the master of space and time, so he can actually stop time. What's really cool is he's like in a bowling alley and people are bowling and they're eating, and he can see these kids like spitting spit wads at each other, and he like moves everybody around so that they're all doing different things and like dropping balls, and the spit wad hits somebody else and stuff like that. So he can stop time, go around, manipulate things, and then come back. And that not only just freezing time, but he can actually go back in time, change things, or he can go forward in time and see things in the potential future. Now, let's say you have that power, but you're not invincible. So, yeah, you can go back in time, but what if you go back in time and hit a wall? What if you go forward in time and hit a laser? You might need invincibility too. But I guess when it comes to superpowers, you just got to take that risk, don't you? I think there'd be a lot of people signing up for the risk because there'd be a lot more reward, I think, than there would be risk for a lot of these superpowers. What about the detective Matt Parkman? He was a police officer, and he wanted to have the ability to read people's minds. And he gets those powers. But he comes to find out that there's also people who have the same power, and they can block his ability. So would it be cool to have the ability just to read people's minds when they can't communicate maybe with you back, or they don't know that you're reading their mind? That would be kind of creepy, right? But if you had the power of telepathy and just communicating with them telepathically instead of just it being like a one-way information grab, then I think that would be cool. He also has the power and ability to like push people to do certain things too. Like he's like, hey, go get me some chocolate chip cookies, and they'll go do it. Kind of stuff like that. Would you be the supervillain Siler and just take everybody's powers? Because you have this thirst. He has like this hunger, this thirst for more and more superpowers. And that's what he does. He goes out and he continually kills for more superpowers, becomes stronger, stronger, stronger. And eventually he gets the attention of a company that will imprison people who are abusing powers, which is kind of interesting. And it kind of lends itself to the idea of, the Japanese internment camps of like World War II, and going back to the World War II camps in Germany as well, where they start rounding up all these heroes and they're starting to worry about them. That could be a potential plot line as well when it comes down to people with superpowers, right? So it's like, how will the human race work with this issue in the near future that's going to happen? With the technology that we have and the uber rich, how do we eliminate the issue of the rich making themselves richer by utilizing their money to buy powers? And then the people that have those powers, I mean, literally, they're going to be able to like walk into a casino and they're going to be able to utilize those powers to win bets. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. I mean, think about just the counting cards aspect. It doesn't matter how many decks they use, 8, 6, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. These guys are going to have such brain power, they're going to be able to know, or they're going to be able to read, the dealer, the dealer's mind or something like that. They're going to be able to do it. And then it's going to be a problem, right? Because then they're just going to become richer. Or somebody's going to use it for evil, right? There's this innate need in the human psyche for power. It's just there. It's just always there. I don't know if it's just humans. I think it's probably all species, because all species are fighting for survival. I don't care if they're the most evolved species. Oh gosh, what was that movie when she was holding it? She was holding some plant, and she was like, when it comes down to it, when the chips are down or something like that, and she's squeezing this alive plant, and the plant like cuts her, and she's like, all of species try to cut their way out of things, and it was like her plant, it was her baby. Oh God, I can't remember what movie that was now, and it wasn't Little Shop of Horrors. Don't worry. So I think that, when you're picking a superpower, I think you have to pick it quite diligently. I think a lot of people, I think at the top of the list, right, is going to be flight. I don't know what it is about flight, but I think people just want to fly. And I think that's probably a great one. I think it's way up there on the list of ideal superpowers. I think number 2 might be invincibility. 2 or 3 might be telepathy or the ability to even push people to do what they want them to do. 4 might be to be able to traverse space and time. I mean, that's going to be a huge money winner too, because you're going to know all the capabilities of betting. So, like, you know, if the Bears win the Super Bowl or something like that, or, you know, you're going to go bet on them. It's just what you're going to do. You're going to win too. And there has been an interesting story about a gentleman who was theorized to be a time traveler and made all these crazy bets within like a 2-month span, and he said he was a time traveler. I was just listening to another podcast where they were talking about that gentleman. He had like a Russian name, and that was his excuse, was that he was a time traveler. And then they had arrested him, and then he just like disappeared, like from, I don't know, from the prison cell, or if it was from, or they released him and he disappeared, or what the case was, but he basically just disappeared. He said he was a time traveler. So I think when it comes to superpowers, gosh, what would I pick? Flight, invincibility, time travel, super strength, invisibility. Depends on what you want to use it for. If you are an individual, you're living by yourself, you don't have a family, you might want to do flight, because you can go fly around the world and do whatever you want. Can you carry people with you? That's the question. If you're married and you have kids, maybe you want to have something where you can't be killed, because you want to be around for your kids and you want to survive for them, right? It's all about priorities. It's all about where you are in life and what you really need and desire. So I think all of them have their pros and cons, but I think flight, it's got to be up there. Superhuman strength's got to be up there. Telepathy, got to be up there. Time travel, capabilities, power of space and time, it's got to be up there. Who doesn't want to be Marty McFly? So anyway, if you haven't seen this show, Heroes, I highly recommend it. All the seasons are on Amazon. I'm not getting paid for this or anything. I'm actually in the middle of watching. I'm in end of season 3, going into season 4, and it only has 4 seasons. And I never got to finish it. So I think if you haven't seen it or you haven't heard about it, go check it out. It's got all 4 seasons on Amazon Prime right now. I guarantee the cinematography is beautiful. There's not a lot of shows that put the amount of money that they did into Heroes and got the money out. There was another show called Sense8 that I think they only did 2 seasons on. It was kind of similar, where they followed a lot of people with superpowers. They didn't have enough money. It was done by one of the Wachowskis, however you say the name, that did The Matrix. They just ran out of money. But Heroes didn't run out of money. It was funded by NBC. So they had 4 seasons. And it's great. It's great. You'll be hooked by the first couple episodes. So enjoy it. Highly recommended by Locked On Universe. You tell me what you think your favorite superpower is in the comments section. I'd love to hear about it, man. I get a few people doing comments, and that's about it. So all the people that are leaving comments, I appreciate you. I don't always put polls up, but I always have. What did you like? What did you think about this episode? That's always up there, so you can always leave a comment, and I'll publish them. So, you'll be published on Spotify, and wherever podcasts are heard. So, I love you guys. Thanks for listening, and I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. And take care of yourselves, physically, spiritually, emotionally. Hey, who knows? If you meditate enough, you might be able to obtain some sort of superpower like telekinesis, telepathy, or one of these others. There's even been known to be Buddhist monks that can float. So we never really know. Follow through on your hobbies and your goals and your dreams, whatever they may be. And as always, continue to question the universe around you. Until next time, guys, take care. And Locked On Universe out. Peace.